Okay, we're in Daniel chapter 6. We're about verse 15. Individuals have laid a trap for Daniel. They have sprung this trap. They've appealed to King Darius, whether it was an appeal to his ego or whether it was appeal to calm down the kingdom. The trap worked, and they were able to get a law, an unjust law, passed. And even Darius now, because it's the law according to the Medes and the Persians that cannot be changed, is now in effect. And no one can make an appeal except to the king himself, and that would include any type of prayer. And Daniel is a person of character and a person of great religious fervor, and the individuals know that they can't find anything wrong with the way that Daniel governs or does his state business, so they have to find something wrong that they can spring a trap on him according to the law of his God, a religious thing. And so they have sprung this trap, and sure enough, Daniel is steadfast in his love for God, and he prays as he does aforetime, and they bring this to the king's attention. And in verse 15 we see them reminding the king that he has made this statute, this interdict, this law which forbids anyone from making any type of appeal to anyone except for the king. And so he is now trapped. Daniel is trapped. The king is trapped. The king is mad at himself. But nonetheless, this is the situation they find themselves in. And he works all day long, but he cannot find a way around it. He can't find a way to change it or make it right. And so in verse 16, sure enough, he has to do what the law says, and he takes Daniel and he has him cast into the den of lions. Now in verse 17, you'll notice that not only did the king put his signet ring, but who else put their signet to the stone? All of his nobles. Now why would that be? They want to make certain too, see. They're backing it up too. All right. This reminds us of the seal that was put on the stone at the grave of our Lord, doesn't it? This thing could not be changed. They had heard that the Lord is going to rise on the third day. Maybe his followers would come and steal his body and say that he rose from the dead. So, all of the lies that they had been telling about him, they knew a whole lot more than what they were saying, right? They knew the truth to a lot of these things. And so they told lies about him over and over in court the day before, see? They knew what the truth was. They knew what he was talking about. So this was all lies in court. And so, because they did not believe in the resurrection of the dead, they put a seal to make certain that no one, according to Roman law, no one could touch that or move that stone. And that would also prove if anyone did tamper with that stone. And so this is the situation here that we see with Daniel. They put their signet rings to it, which shows that they have their approval to it, and also that no one is supposed to touch it or tamper with it, that the law is behind it. It's very similar to everything that happens today. At the federal level, the President of the United States signs it. At the state level, the governor signs a particular law into effect, and of course at a city level, you have a mayor that would sign. Thank you. Somebody has to finish my thoughts for me. You have a mayor that would sign a particular ordinance or whatever into effect. So, we have ways of making laws and put them into effect, and this is exactly the same thing that we're saying here. Now his fate is sealed. He is in the den of lions. Okay. Now, he says some pitiful words to him, and he tells him that your God is going to save you, but when he goes to his bed at night, what's his problem? He can't sleep. Now, why wouldn't he sleep? If he had so much confidence in Daniel's God, why couldn't he sleep? Isn't it amazing that the best thing for sleep is a clean conscience? People that have clean consciences don't have much trouble going to bed at night. They don't have insomnia. They sleep like little babies. If you go and see a small child sleeping, they don't have much trouble falling asleep. They sleep well. They sleep deep. They sleep with great confidence. Mom and dad is protecting them. They have great confidence in God and in their parents. But it takes us, wise people, wise old individuals, to have all the fears in the world about everything in the world, don't we? And so as we grow older and supposedly wiser, we worry about everything that we could possibly worry about it and have absolutely no control of, right? And so we lose sleep. I think that's a telling thing about us as supposed mature adults. Well, he was guilty. He had done a foolish thing. But at least he was kicking the right person. So what we see so oftentimes today is somebody's blaming somebody else. It's not my fault, my parents, didn't treat me right, and the state didn't do this to me, and that's what we see today. There's no responsibility ever taken. But this king at least was mad with himself. Remember, we talked about this last week. He was mad with himself. He was mad at the right person. He let somebody else dupe him. He had no one else to blame but himself. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't blame to go around on other people, and we're going to see these other people pay the price. However, he allowed someone else to dupe him. And when we choose to and allow someone to dupe us with some foolishness, who should we be angry with? We should be mad with ourselves. We need to look at what the evidence tells us. And when individuals go to see the Lord on the last day and they stand before the righteous judge and they say, Lord, didn't we do this and didn't we do this in your name? And he says, depart from me, I never knew thee. And they're shocked. The problem is they don't know this book, isn't it? They think if they take one verse of Scripture out of context here and there, or whatever, that they're doing what God would have them to do, because they're chosen to do will worship. I'm going to do what I want to do, and God better be pleased with it. This kind of talk that I'm doing right now is not popular in the United States of America, but it is the truth. People need to bow their will to the King and do what he has told us to do in his will. And if you don't know what it is, you need to find out. Don't take my word for it. Find out what the King has said, what he has authorized. then you won't be ignorant. You won't be duped. All of us makes mistakes, and our Lord is a forgiving Lord. Nonetheless, we all will be held accountable for our own actions. Okay, so verse 18, the king went to his palace, passed the night fasting. He couldn't be soothed. He was worried. In verse 19, he rose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. He wanted to rectify this situation as soon as he could, if it was possible. And notice I said if, because he wasn't sure. And we know that because in verse 20 he says he cried in a what? Yeah, a lamentable voice. O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God whom thou servest continually, what? Able. Is he able? Was he able? Is he able to deliver thee? He was not sure. After all those words that he said originally, putting Daniel in, to try to give him confidence, pat him on the back. He was a good man. He was trying to give him some confidence, but he didn't have that confidence, did he? Isn't it amazing that those individuals that don't truly believe in God will try to bolster somebody up, but they don't have anything. They're empty wells, right? They have no water to pour out. If you're thirsty, don't go to them. If you're thirsty for truth, don't go to our schools of higher learning, because they've got nothing to give you. Is he able to deliver thee? Verse 21, the greatest sound he ever heard, right? And Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. This is the proper, at that time, that was the proper way to address the king. O king, what? Live forever. How did they address King Daniel or David or any other king? There was a proper way to address a king. What does the Romans say? Give honor to whom honor, what? Is due. So he's addressing him in the proper way, or in the customary way. Verse 22, my God has sent his angel and shut the lion's mouth, and they have done me not, and have not hurt me, for as much before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done what? No hurt, no crime. He said, God has found me innocent, and I am innocent before you as well. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm innocent before my God, and I'm innocent before you. Notice Daniel underlines both of these principles. He's not saying that I'm absolutely sinless, but as we see over and over, there is a way that we can know that we are doing the best that we can do, that we're innocent before God. You know, there's a lot of people that don't have that confidence, and shame on them for not having that confidence. We can have that confidence before God. God can give us that confidence if we do his will. I am innocent before thee. What? It's not saying that I'm sinless, but I can be innocent before him if I'm washed in the blood of the Lamb.
I think Daniel here too is letting the king know that there's that as powerful as they thought the law of the Medes and the Persians was, because it couldn't change, there was a law that was higher than it. And so Daniel says, God found me innocent, and therefore I'm innocent whether your law says it or not. God's law supersedes man's law. So when Daniel said, I'm innocent before you, it's because God said so. say it, but I am in what your law says or not. And the reverse can be true too. I think today, there are people that think they're innocent before the law of the land, but in the eye of God, they're guilty. And the reason is they're appealing to the wrong law.
That's pretty much what Peter and John said before the court, right?
If we're innocent in God's eyes or guilty, that law is the one that we need to be concerned about more than the one here on earth.
Also, like you say, Daniel's not sinless, but he was innocent of the charges that they gave him to throw him into that lion's den. He was innocent of those charges, and that's what he's telling the king about this.
Yeah, but Brad makes an excellent point as far as a higher law is concerned. You know, people today are trying to twist things around and you know, try to take a religion out of everything. And the problem with that is that where does it come from? Where does morals come from? Where do a lot of things come from if you don't have a basis for these things? I got a nephew that is an atheist. And if I were to take his ethics, the way that he presents them, then because I'm bigger than him, I should be able to just go in his house, kill him, and take anything I want because I want it, because I'm just an animal. We're all just animals. You know, it's survival of the fittest, right? And if he wants to try to imply some morality, then where's the morality come from? If a lion goes out and kills a gazelle to eat, is that morally wrong? Of course it's not morally wrong. They don't even suggest that that's morally wrong. Well, why not? He needed something to eat, so he went out and killed it. So if I want what you have, why shouldn't I just, because I'm bigger than you, bigger and tougher than you, why shouldn't I just go in your house and go and kill you and take it? That's what a lot of liberals are saying now. He didn't have any clothes for school, so how is he going to get clothes for school? He has to go rob in order to get them. We've heard that on national television. No, there is a moral law that all men are bound by, and it's wrong to steal. It's immoral to steal. Well, where does that moral law come from? It comes from God. God has set those laws. And until we recognize that,
it's convenient if you can eliminate God from the picture. Then you become a law to yourselves. And it becomes, as far as ethics goes, it becomes situational ethics.
yeah.
Well, tell me what the situation is, then I'll tell you what's right. And it constantly changes. There's no standard, because you and I are not standards to ourselves. We cannot be.
No, we cannot. See, the atheists and the humanists and that type of thing, they want to do that, but the problem is if you do that, then you can't even condemn Hitler for his actions, because it was all right under that law. It was legal for him to go out and kill and murder all those Jews and homosexuals, and there was another group of individuals that he killed. I forgot who they were, but he just went out and murdered who he decided he wanted to. It was legal for him to do that. And so by their standard, it wasn't immoral.
Are you saying it was legal because
He made it legal in his country.
he was the leader of the country?
Yeah, and the laws were made such that he could go out and do that in his country. That is correct.
And yet afterwards, when there were the people, some of his people who were convicted of war crimes, they were not able to appeal to German's law because the
the UN has gotten so bad, I don't know how they would. I don't know what international law even means now. Anyway, we're getting a little off the track, but he brings up Brad brings up an excellent point about the fact that we do answer to God, period. I mean, that's where we all answer to, even King Darius.
Wouldn't the king have been aware during Nebuchadnezzar's reign that Daniel survived the furnace? I mean, even if he wouldn't have been there, he would have heard this. I mean, this happened in his lifetime, that, Daniel and these other men were walking around a furnace that was so hot, people outside the furnace were killed. So it surprises me that he would even doubt this.
People saw Lazarus raised from the dead. People saw Jesus rise from the dead, and some of them still did not believe. And Jesus said that. You would not believe even though you see someone rise from the dead. And that was in the parable, not the parable, but that is in the story of the rich man and Lazarus. So, people will believe no matter what evidence you give them. People will choose to believe what they choose to believe. They always will, they always have, and they always will. You take the situation of Elijah on Mount Carmel. They saw fire come down from heaven. It consumed the sacrifice, the altar, and all the water, and still they went back to idolatry. Now, what sense does that make to a logical individual who thinks rationally? No, they weren't thinking rationally. They did what they chose and wanted to do. So people, throughout all history, always did what they chose and wanted to do. Now, I believe that there's always individuals, and the scriptures teach, there's always a remnant that learn something from that and choose to do what is right. There's always a section. And I can't help but believe on Mount Carmel there was a few people that had their eyes open, but I still believe that was a few. Unfortunately, it's always a few. And most just follow the crowd. Whatever the crowd does, they go along. They're sheep, and they don't choose to do the right thing, which is always the straight and narrow way, and it's difficult. They want to take the easy way. It's never easy to do the right thing. It's never easy. Because you have to pay up front, and then the reward is later. They want the reward now. But that's sin. Sin is always fun now. They don't see that you pay for it heavily later. And that's exactly what's going to happen to these men as well. Verse 23, getting back to our story here, the king is exceedingly glad, okay? And he commands that Daniel should be taken up out of the den. And so Daniel was taken out of the den, and they inspect him. No manner of hurt is found on him. For what reason? Because he trusted in his God. Okay? They noticed that. They noted that. Okay, this is being noted. The reason that Daniel wasn't hurt when he was in the den of lions was what? He trusted in God. That was the reason. Okay? And so verse 24, to accentuate that point, all right, to make that point even bigger, King Darius commands that the men that accused Daniel, that had caused this ruckus, that had made this false accusation against Daniel, them, their family, and all that type of stuff are now cast into the den of lions, and what happens to them?
Killed by the lions.
They tore them all before you hit the bottom of the den.
Okay? And so what does that prove? The way the lions act towards them, what does that prove?
Well, they were still hungry. Some people might say, well, they weren't hungry, they didn't want to kill that, they didn't want to kill Daniel because they weren't hungry. No, they were hungry, and so the other people in there, they tore them to shreds.
Okay, so that's the real point here, is that when these people are thrown in, the animals don't even allow them to hit the bottom of the den. They catch them in midair. They tear them to shreds before they even hit the bottom of it. So it's not a matter of them not being aggressive. It wasn't a matter of them not being hungry. It was a matter of the fact that Daniel's God protected him. And that point is accentuated by contrast, when these individuals are thrown in, all of them are torn to shreds. However many of them it was.
It's all those men and their wives and children.
And that's kind of ironic, I was thinking about that too. That's the way God dealt with people when he sends people in to destroy somebody, he wanted everything destroyed, even the animals and everything. It's like Darius used the same kind of reasoning, that if you take out all of them, you don't have, because the wives and children could have the same kind of attitude these men had, because they lived with them and everything, so they just got rid of all of them. That attitude-
Yeah, all kinds of objections come from liberals about this type of actions. One, this was common in this day and age. Two, what if you left some of these individuals alive, or their descendants alive? Are they not going to come back and want some type of retribution? But more likely, how much, or how not complacent, but how involved were these individuals in this conspiracy themselves? We don't know. We don't have all the information. All we are told is they were killed with them. Darius may have done an investigation, or had his people done an investigation, and find out them and their families, or all of them, these individuals were involved in this whole situation all at the same time. And so he had them all destroyed for the same reasons. They were all involved in this conspiracy. He didn't want any of them not to be punished. And so the whole kingdom knows now that the last thing you want to do is be involved in the conspiracy against the king. I don't have all those answers. What I do know for sure is this conspiracy was quelled right now. And so you can make whatever assumptions you want with it, but it is wise to stop a conspiracy, period. It's wise to stop a conspiracy today, just as it was then, and you need to do it justly, whatever that is. And I think it would be unwise for us to think that he didn't do it in a just fashion here as well, because he shows some wisdom in the things that he's doing. He was kicking himself for his bad decisions. To think that he's not making a good decision now, or trying to make a good decision, and the way he's handling this conspiracy, I think is a bad judgment. Darius is showing some prudence in the way he's handling the kingdom. But nonetheless, maybe you disagree with me, and that's fine. You can be wrong. I don't mind. You can be wrong.
I just thought of the book of Esther for some reason. Doesn't Haman's wife discourage? Because kind of the same thing's happening here. He's kind of plotting against Esther, and all the while he's, that am I remembering correctly? Doesn't she advise against that, or warn him against that? And she's spared in the end. He's the only one that's hanged. And so maybe that kind of goes into this idea that these wives and perhaps adult children are complicit with the.
Yeah, she was very involved in Haman's conspiracy and the way that he acted. At the last, she told him, says, "You're undone." But all up to that, she was telling him, yeah, do this, and yeah, do that. A whole lot like Jezebel stirring up her husband. But yeah, she's not a good woman at all. But yes, that's a fair comparison. Okay. All right. So the king sends out a decree in verse 26, and he lets everyone know that in every dominion of my kingdom, men and women fear and tremble before the God of Daniel, that he is a living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be from even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth. He worketh signs and wonders in the heavens and the earth, and hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So once again, we see a king writing a letter that is dispersed throughout the kingdom. And we don't know how widely this is being dispersed because throughout the empire, because Cyrus at this point is just beginning to spread the empire. He is now in the process of conquering. So I don't know if this is just going throughout the province of Babylon itself, or if this is going throughout other provinces as well. But however far this reach is, it's obviously reaching more people than just Babylonians. This is reaching other tribes and individuals, obviously the Medes, down into Persia somewhere in other areas. So again, Gentile peoples are being told about the God of who? The God of the Jews. They know about him. Okay? So again, it's no surprise to us when Christ is born that magi or wise men from the east come to worship the Christ child, right? By the way, it doesn't say there were 3 of them. It just says they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And most people just make the jump that say that there must have been 3 of them. But nonetheless, I digress. Okay, and as we close chapter 6, and we will start chapter 7 next week, he says, "So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of" who? Cyrus the Persian. I've been talking about Cyrus for quite some time, and all of a sudden now Cyrus's name comes up. And so there's a good reason for that. All right, so next week we will probably go into a lot